Hello everyone, welcome back to the Movie Reviewers 100. My name is Scott, also known as CineRam here on YouTube and elsewhere. I do the Thursday videos for the collab channel, and our theme this week brings to a close our set of weeks on the original Carrie. We've already done Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie, and now we're doing Brian De Palma, the director of the original 1976 Carrie. De Palma is a director who I've been excited about for a really long time, although I haven't enjoyed all of his movies. He's a bit of a show-off with some of his stylistic tricks, and sometimes I like that. Particularly in his love of Hitchcockian tropes and what have you. And he also likes staging really long shots. He'll do, on average, one per movie, sometimes more, with the Steadicam bobbing and weaving through various locations for a big, long, extended scene all captured in one shot. Sometimes he'll switch it up a bit, do something a little bit shorter, maybe mounted on in a single position, like he did for the Black Dahlia, maybe on a crane, having it move all over the place, basically capturing various parts of a scene. There's a shot in Snake Eyes starring Nicolas Cage, which actually is several Steadicam shots all linked together with each other, and then transitions to a shot that's sort of based from a fixed position, but panning back and forth between various characters, all sort of integrated into one big long scene, as you do. So that kind of thing is really flashy and appealing to me. He's done long shots in The Untouchables, Raising Cain, Bonfire, the Vanities, Mission to Mars. Yeah, it's been, and others as well. So that kind of thing is fun. My brother is a camera operator in Colorado, and he spent a lot of time studying, long Steadicam shots, because that's something he's sort of trained himself to do. And I asked him, I spoke to him recently, I told him we were going to be doing a Brian De Palma week, and what was his favorite Steadicam shot from a De Palma film. And he said, well, the Bonfire of the Vanities is the most elaborate and certainly has the most interesting story behind it. I have links to some of these shots in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, there'll be another link on this page to a site called SteadyShots.org, which is something that my brother actually contributed articles to and ideas for shots. Basically, it's sort of a breakdown of all these famous long shots and some not so well-known shots that were very elaborate Steadicam work. In particular, there's an operator by the name of Larry McConkey who worked with Brian De Palma on a number of occasions, as well as other directors, doing long, elaborate shots. He's kind of a hero in the world of Steadicam operators. So there's quite a bit of work there with him, between him and De Palma. So I wanted, getting to the film itself, I chose to talk about Passion, which is De Palma's most recent movie, and a remake of a French film called Love Crime, which I saw a few weeks ago. I saw the original, and then this week I saw the new one. So let's talk about the De Palma film first. It stars Noomi Rapace, or Rapace, I'm not really sure how to pronounce her last name, who of course was the lead in Prometheus and also played Elizabeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original Swedish films. And Rachel McAdams, who you know from The Notebook and Mean Girls and things like that. They work together in a advertising agency. Rachel McAdams is Noomi's boss, and she encourages her and sort of tries to act as a mentor to her, but also is slimy and will steal her ideas and take credit for them, and then humiliate her when Noomi tries to fight back. And then at a certain point in the film, Rachel ends up with her throat slashed in her home, dead. And the cops are investigating, and they immediately focus in on Noomi because she was humiliated, and there was a threatening message sent from her computer to Rachel's computer, which Noomi claims that she never wrote. She, seems very confused and doesn't really. She claims to have an alibi, but it's not really certain because she's been taking a lot of medication, so she's a little woozy. And so the cops are investigating her, but there's also another person of interest in the matter because Rachel, as it turns out, was also about to sell out a guy who was doing some shady business dealings, some shady financial business between his company and theirs. And so there's evidence against him as well, not direct physical evidence, but that's another avenue the cops are looking into. So it's a bit of a mystery, and has some Hitchcockian tropes that De Palma sort of added in, I think, because by and large the film follows the plot of the original pretty closely, with some minor changes. But most of the changes come at the very end, where there's a few sort of last-minute developments that just kind of go off into crazy world, and the ending really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're not really sure when you look at that last shot, well, wait a minute, how much of what I just saw actually happened? Because you've got things which you know happened for sure, but then other things which may have been something that Noomi actually just dreamt. I don't get it. And I don't get it either. That's what I said, really. I was just like, I don't know what the heck actually happened in the film. For the most part, yes, up until a certain point it makes sense, but then at the end it's like, wait a minute, what actually did happen there? I don't know. So that's not good. Not good. By and large, the movie is pretty much inferior to the French version, which starred Kristen Scott Thomas in the Rachel McAdams part, and Ludivine Sagnier, I believe her name is. She's this young blonde actress, was in a movie with Charlotte Rampling called Swimming Pool. For those of you who have seen Swimming Pool, I'm sure you know exactly who I'm talking about and why. But again, it's the same sort of dynamic between the characters. The difference being that the original French film, I think, spent a bit more time. I don't recall exactly how it played out, but you sort of get the sense pretty early on who the killer is in the original version. Even though, I don't want to get too much into the details of the plot in case you're planning on seeing that one or the newer version. Don't want to spoil things, but things play out differently. And a bit better, in my opinion. There's, yes, just some extra stuff in the De Palma version that really just seems thrown in there in the last second. Sort of a Vertigo-type situation, I think, involving some character's identical twin. Yeah, it's all right. It's an interesting movie, the original, and this movie is basically like a less, a somewhat inferior version of that. In some ways, very inferior. As far as long shots go, long showcase shots, there really isn't anything really noteworthy in this. There is one kind of extended scene where Noomi Rapace is walking through the corridors of her office. She gets into an elevator, the elevator travels down, and then she goes into a parking garage. Kind of a much simpler reversed version of the Bonfire, the Vanities shot, which has Bruce Willis getting out of a limousine in a parking garage, walking through a bunch of corridors, escorted by another character, rides up an elevator, then weaves his way through a number of other different hallways and rooms before standing in front of a bunch of photographers and getting his picture taken. They did about 11 takes of the shot, and the camera operator actually hit his head and cracked his skull during the first take, so he had to basically shoot all the rest of the takes with an injured head, which couldn't have been very easy. It's an impressive shot, but it's not one of my favorite shots, mostly because a lot of the other actors in the scene play it super broad and just like totally exaggerated comically, and I just found that kind of annoying. It's interesting hearing him talk about the Raising Cain shot. Raising Cain is a movie with John Lithgow, and this shot in question that I'm talking about is one in which there's a psychiatrist who's talking a little bit about the crazy things that have happened in the character's life, the John Lithgow character's life, as she's walking through a police station with a couple of homicide detectives. And they walk through this hallway, that hallway, they walk down some stairs, they walk down another set of stairs, they go through a lobby, they get into an elevator, they go down to the basement to the morgue to take a look at a dead body. Nice, long, very elaborate shot. No cuts at all during the whole thing. And on the website Study Shots, not only do they have the whole shot for you to see, but there's also video of Larry McConkey himself talking about planning the shot, and getting basically the actors to add things to their characters just as a way of covering like fudging these little corners in the shot itself. There had to be a moment where he had to back up basically with the camera apparatus and walk down a staircase that was parallel to the ones the actors were walking down. So he needed the actors to come up with a way for them to delay walking down the stairs so that he could get to the parallel staircase, which was farther away from them. And then there's a shot where they kind of go ahead in a lobby, and he needed a reason for them to speed up and then slow down so that he could circle around at exactly the right moment. And listening to him talk about all this stuff is just like, oh, this is so amazing. There's so many things that I never would have thought of. It takes so much planning to execute some of these shots right here. The Untouchables has a really long scene which basically goes back and forth down a corridor in a police station. Kevin Costner, Sean Connery are all in this shot right here. And Mission to Mars, I wanted to find a good shot from Mission to Mars. There's actually a scene, the very first scene in the film basically is one that takes place at Tim Robbins' house. Out in the yard, they're having a barbecue. A bunch of the astronauts from the film are having a barbecue, and a long scene kind of weaves its way back and forth between several different characters. But the shot that I remember the best is actually one that doesn't actually use a Steadicam. There's a centrally mounted camera in the centrifuge of the spaceship. If you remember in 2001, there's this centrifuge where the characters basically, it's one big ring that the characters walk around, and because it's spinning, they can walk normally like it's gravity. And there's a feature like that, there's a room like that on the spaceship in Mission to Mars. So you have characters walking in and out of rooms, and then the thing sort of spins around, and you know, you have this thing where this contraption basically that they shot it on moves so that the actors can stay walking upright in one place. The floor moves for them, but the way the camera's angled, it looks like they're walking up the wall, walking this way, that way, and that's always fun. The funny thing about the shot, of course, is that Gary Sinise is sitting in a chair, and he stays in that chair throughout the whole scene, which means that at one point he was hanging upside down, and then finally the centrifuge came around back again, so he was right side up and focused him on the end of the scene. That's a fun shot. Yeah, there's others. I couldn't recall any particular long shots from Casualties of War, which I think Al talked about at the beginning of the week. But we had EJ talk about The Untouchables, of course, and Ray talked about Mission to Mars. And of course we had another review of Carrie. We've had one every week of this theme. A different guy reviewing Carrie. James just did a review of Carrie yesterday. So yeah, please check out the other guys' videos if you haven't already. De Palma is a very entertaining director. Not all of his movies are winners. Black Dahlia for me was not a very good film overall, but certainly there's these set pieces in his films which are very entertaining, like the staircase gunfight from The Untouchables, and there's a lot of sort of elaborate stuff like that happening frequently in his films. And while I wasn't a big fan of Passion overall, I will say that it's a real good character for Rachel McAdams to play. She hasn't played an outright villainous character like that since Mean Girls, and it's good to see her do that again instead of, you know, romantic comedies like The Vow and The Notebook and Time Traveler's Wife, which isn't a romantic comedy, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, skip Passion, see some of the other De Palma films, and be sure and check out that shot, I've got some links to the Steady Shots website so you can check out some of those other long, elaborate De Palma shots that are really entertaining. Thanks again for watching, and be sure and tune in to our new theme starting tomorrow. We're doing a Paul Walker tribute week, a week of Paul Walker reviews. So, thanks very much again, and see you again real soon.